Smithsonians, welcome back. Smith Francois here, the founder of Forest Program, and this is going to be a special one. We have a lawyer here. I didn't do nothing. I promise you, I did not do anything. Not this, no regular lawyer. We have an immigration lawyer, but why am I talking? Who are you?
I'm not your lawyer, right?
Oh, man. Can you?
Maybe one day.
What type of lawyer are you? Let's figure out who you are.
So I'm an immigration attorney.
Okay.
So it's very nice to be with you today and to talk about the issues that are facing perhaps the Haitian community and other immigrant communities here in Ohio and throughout the U.S.
Thank you for coming on. So where are you from? Like, I did some light background check, and you're from?
Russia.
Russia.
Yeah.
When did you come to America?
So I came to the U.S. in 1976 as a religious refugee.
What does that mean?
So refugees are people that are persecuted in their home countries, and they can be persecuted based upon race, religion, nationality, social group, or political opinion.
Okay.
So a lot of the refugees that came from the Soviet Union were religious refugees. And to get refugee status in the United States, you have to relocate to a third country. So we relocated to Italy. And then in Italy, we were given refugee status. And then we came to the U.S. in 1976 to Louisville, Kentucky. And then we immigrated to Columbus, Ohio in 1977.
Okay. We as in?
Myself and my parents.
Okay. Awesome. So we're in Columbus, Ohio, of course. And
the heart of it all, right?
Yes.
O-H.
O-I-I-O.
Thank you.
I'm from Chicago. I'm so sorry.
C-H-I. Does that work?
I was about to say Chicago. I was like, Haiti, well, let my mind freeze. Okay. So we met a few times, and the last time I met you, we was at a book fair, and you said something very captivating. I'm like, yeah, I have to interview you, because you have a different point of view that I may not think of. So that's why Smith says it's here. Like, we want to understand different point of views, international views. And I want to get your perspective first, more about who you are, your background, and then we'll move on from there.
My name is Ina Simakovsky. I have been living in Columbus on and off since 1977. I became, and again, I grew up speaking Russian, learned English, helped my family navigate, and then always kind of knew I wanted to be working with Russian speakers, and then eventually that evolved into working with immigrant populations and helping people navigate their immigration journey. Went to law school here at Ohio State and then relocated to the West Coast and have been doing immigration law since 1998. I came back to Columbus in 2004 to start an immigration program at CRIS, at Community Refugee and Immigration Services. And then in 2007, I went out on my own and have been practicing immigration law since then. I am also a mother, a wife, a daughter. I have 3 children who have left the house and are now amazing adults-ish. One of them is still underage. And I am now kind of at that age where I feel like I have been through, we came under Carter and now we are under this particular administration. So I feel like I have a very good history of our immigration system from my own experiences and now sort of watching the pendulum go from one extreme to the other. So my role now is to educate and to contribute and to make sure that people understand how important it is to do their immigration processes with an attorney and to really understand all of the nuances of the different immigrant communities, because Columbus, Ohio has a lot of pockets of immigrants from all over the world. And it's fascinating to be able to get into those communities and to really understand them and celebrate them and eat their food and feel very included in the lives of people that you are then able to help. It is really an honor and a privilege to be able to work with these communities and to help them with their immigration process.
Okay. So you mentioned a lot about your immigration background. Like, how was it coming from, I don't know, did you get if you can explain your education background more. Came from Russia, right? And did you get education there and then come to America and transfer your education? Or like, did you build your education here in America? How was that?
So I came when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
So I was educated in the U.S. through high school, through undergrad, through law school. I was educated here, but I will tell you that being an immigrant or being a refugee or being not from here is very hard to assimilate and to be able to fit into a system that you know nothing about. Your previous guest was talking about experiencing his first snow here. I mean, it's just you're experiencing everything for the first time. And I think as a child, it's probably easier. But watching your parents struggle and your community struggle, it really makes you appreciate who you are and what you are. And for me, it at least gave me the sense of wanting to make that transition easier for people.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that. Before you dive in more about immigration, I want to know more about you. Like, what hobbies do you have?
I have no hobbies.
Okay.
That's a lie. Yeah. I'm sorry. What is Ina like outside of her law firm?
Honestly, I do not have hobbies. I have always truly enjoyed my work. And through that work, I have been able to connect with the things that I enjoy from other cultures. So I love eating different food. That brings me great joy, and it is an adventure that usually happens a couple times a week where I am going to experience new food or new cultures. Today, I went to a Bhutanese church on the east side, and then I went to a Congolese church in Galloway. So in terms of hobbies, I think when you're an immigrant kid and your parents are struggling to survive and struggling to provide, and you're watching this and it's kind of in your DNA. First of all, hard work is in your DNA, but then just watching that struggle. And so hobbies isn't something that I think my father fishes. I can't say that I enjoy, I want to enjoy pottery. I want to find a hobby that perhaps I like, but I really like people. I really like interacting with people. I really like going into situations that might be foreign at first and then become very comfortable. But I think my hobbies are the people that I serve, the people that I help, and just sort of going into these new communities and making them very comfortable for myself. That I think it brings me the greatest joy.
I picked up you're a foodie.
I am a foodie.
You're a food expert.
I am a foodie of things that are a little bit, I'm a big goat eater. I love a good gizzard. I like food a little too much sometimes. Yeah.
So this question is, who inspires you? Because like you, I understand the work ethic, like being first generation Haitian Americans, like hobbies not really, it's everything to help people. So it's like, I understand that, but like what inspires you outside your parents? Like, or like what motivates you that extra?
Oh, that's a tough question because right now it's all about like protection, right? So I'm out and about in the community quite a bit. And I always say to people, draw your boundaries, right? Like, what's your boundary? What are you comfortable doing? What are you not comfortable doing? And figure it out before you get into that scenario. Right now, it just feels like my priority is educating people as to the fact that perhaps no one is as safe as they want to believe they are, and just protecting these communities that I care very deeply about, and that it's been a struggle to create even those boundaries within myself. And so the way that I have done that, because I'm not good at kind of turning off, is I now have to physically remove myself from the state of Ohio to be able to give kind of my mind and my body a little bit of a break. And that sounds so strange, but I can't relax necessarily as much as I need to relax when I am surrounded by the people that I care about and that I assist, and I see them suffering and struggling to be able to stay together as a family or to be able to stay in the US. It's been a really rough year. And so I'm not even sure if that answers your question.
No, it's like that's where your mind is. Your mindset shows that you're a caring person. And then my follow-up question for that is, being an attorney is like you face so many things. So like it's I'm trying to
go natural.
Okay. So being in a way, I understand that, like being outside the comfort zone. So that's why I'm in Columbus. I'm originally from Chicago, went to school in Alabama, and I understand what you're saying, like going out of your comfort. Because I'm going through therapy. That's why it's kind of difficult. I'm going to chop this up, but talk to you.
Yeah.
I'm breaking down like the therapies, like let the connections, like prioritize yourself. So that's gonna be my question. So mental health. So I'm glad that you said that. I know you came back from a trip. So,
No, I came back from taking a break so I don't get sick.
Okay.
Right. So I think that when you are in it as much as I'm in it, or as much as perhaps you're in it, you are not able to turn off. Right. So I leave to go to California to literally try to turn off. And so when I travel, it's usually I'm still working, but it's how do you serve others if you yourself are in a corner crying? You can't. Right. So how do you protect yourself so that you are able to do what people need you to do? And I think a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to do this job. I get a lot of criticism about, well, I texted you and you didn't return my text. Okay, I received 100 texts and it's Sunday. Do I get the day off, or can you have a little grace to let me have my time to just be, right?
Right. So I get it. I'm used to being behind the cameras of pastors, but now I want to try and take this off you. But my question is, what would you say to a 15 to a 33-year-old that's pursuing immigration law, that wants to help the Haitian or their own people? Like, what would you say?
How old are they?
Between 15 and 33. So let's do it better. They're in college. They're a junior year in college and they want to pursue being a lawyer. Because, that's the thing. I don't know if you know, but it's be a doctor, lawyer,
engineer.
Yes. So those are the only things. So like for you, like someone that wants to help the Haitians or whoever
How
they
did
can.
you tell them to take
How would you
it?
help refugees? Like somebody that wants to help refugees, immigrants, what would you advise for them, especially in this climate?
Right. Right now, I get, because the one thing that I would say that the Trump administration did really well during the first administration is they brought people together, right? So people that cared about people rallied and advocated and marched and filed lawsuits. So during the first Trump administration, there was just this sense of like togetherness. During this administration, I don't necessarily feel that. And that might be because I was so burned out during the first Trump administration, and I'm much more protective of my health this time around, because the first time around I got very sick.
Talk about it. What the first time?
I had breast cancer, and I truly believe that it is because I did not take care of myself. I did not set boundaries. I did not sleep. I just was I felt this constant state of stress. I would get up at 3 a.m. and start working every day for 3.5 years. Like it wasn't, and even when I had cancer, the day after my surgery, I was back at work. So I never gave myself the time to heal or the time to breathe. And I think this time around, I made a very conscious decision that I needed to take that time if I wanted to continue to do this work. So to answer your question, if someone said to me, I want to be an immigration attorney right now, I don't know if I would recommend it, because I wouldn't say it's rewarding right now in the way that someone entering the practice needs it to be initially, right? So when you enter a profession, whether it be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, you, as a young person, you have a certain idea of what that profession is like, right? And so when that idea comes crashing down immediately, I think for someone young, it's very hard to move past that because you don't know anything but that, right? You're like crushed. And then you're like, okay, but what's the positive in this? Because it's just so soul crushing now. So I might say, hold off doing this. And I don't think immigration law is something that you dibble dabble in, especially now, because the consequences are pretty severe as to what that dibble dabble could be like. I'll give you an example. So a lot of immigrants, refugees feel very comfortable being served in their own language, right? So if you need to buy a car, you might go to someone that speaks your language. If you need to do your income taxes, you might go to someone that speaks your language, right? The same with immigration. People go to someone that speaks their language that has zero education in immigration law. And they always say, well, I'm just filling out forms. But those forms have legal consequences. And those legal consequences right now are either getting put into deportation or actually getting deported. So the dibble dabble, people should not go to notaries. People should not go to form preparers. People should not ask for immigration advice from the person that changes the oil on their car. everyone should have an education and be competent in what they're doing so that you don't cause damage. And the damage sometimes, could I change my own car? I probably could change. Maybe I'm not very good with that, but maybe I could, right? But I'm going to do damage to my car, period. But then I can fix my car. How do you fix stuff when you're deported or when you're deported to a country that you're not even from? And that's the consequence right now. So if someone came to me and said, I'm thinking about doing this, I'd say, okay, if you're a recent law school graduate, I would perhaps go into a program that does things that does have a little bit of reward, right? So not deportation defense, because that does not have a lot of reward right now. Or get a really good mentor, or start slow. I was in California and I had lunch with someone and she'd never done deportation. She thought that deportation defense, I should say. She thought that citizenship was very simple. And so they took on this case to buy the client additional time because the client's lawyer had been disbarred, and they didn't even screen the client. They just were trying to do good. And so they didn't screen the client, and the client's asylum application was actually pretty frivolous. And now they're stuck representing someone they're stuck. They don't know what to do. So I would just say, if you're thinking about going into this profession, go into the profession very slowly, go into the profession with lots of mentors, and maybe choose a different area of law that complements immigration law, like family law or criminal law, because I don't know if immigration law is where I would want to start right now. Normally, people that go into immigration law want to save the world, right? You want to do good and you want to save the world, and you're 22 years old and you just graduated from law school and you have this, you've just gotten this amazing education and you have this very positive perspective, because law school teaches you how to think in a certain way. And law school doesn't teach you the actual practice of law. It teaches you the theory of law, right? Very few law schools have clinics. Very few law schools have where you're going into the courtroom or you're going into a legal aid. Law school kind of teaches you how to think about the law and not how to practice law. I don't remember being in law school. I worked while I was law school, so I was able to interact with clients. But still, I didn't, you don't have that. How do you say no to a client? How do you challenge a client? How do you suck information from a client that they are not providing to you because you're not asking the right questions, right? So normally now when I say to a client, how many children do you have? And they say, I have one child. And I'm thinking, culturally, I know you have more than that. But how do I ask that question in a way that, so maybe your children died, maybe you adopted children, maybe your children don't live in Columbus, Ohio. So my question has to really pivot, right? So my question now is, how many children came out of your body? But that took a lot of time to figure out that my question was not getting the answer that is needed. So that took lots of practice, and that also took understanding the culture through many mess ups. So a lot of my Somali clients, they answer the question like, how many children live with you? That's how they hear my question. That's not my question. My question is, how many children do you have in the entire planet? Or how many children have you had in the entire planet? And maybe 2 of them were lost during the war. Maybe 1 of them lives in Kenya. Maybe one, your sister gave you the child and you raised the child. So now I say, how many children came out of your body? And I still might not get the answer I need.
So I want to keep it here because investigations, so you're attorney, so you ask questions to get the answers you need. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the practices that help you develop that. Is it the you personally? You say you was caring, because I'm a caring person too, but I'm an introvert. But I'm learning I don't do enough investigation like attorneys should. So let's talk about that. Let's get some examples of investigating people. How do you stop practicing law but apply in life? That should be the question. How do you apply in life? What's it? Is that a turn off or turn on off switch? Investigating people, just different personality types?
I think with social media, people don't understand that their social media is out there for the entire world to see, right? So if I don't ask you a certain question and then the government finds out certain information about you, is it my fault that I didn't ask you, right? because the government now is going into people's social media accounts. And so if you practice in court, the government will present evidence for rebuttal and evidence to basically call you a liar. And sometimes clients turn to you and they say, well, why didn't you tell me that the government would look at my TikTok? And I say, why don't you just tell me the truth? Because then we wouldn't have to be here. We recently lost an asylum case because our client had lived in, I think he had lived in Brazil, and he forgot to tell us that he spent 6 years in Brazil. And so the government went to his TikTok and saw all of his Brazilian escapades, and the anger is directed at his attorney for not, the questionnaire for asylum asks, where have you lived for 5 years? And you're telling me you came through, from your country of, this person was from an African country and he crossed through Mexico, where list your address for 5 years. You forgot to mention Brazil, where you've lived for those 5 years. So I think, again, it comes to you ask the question, you try to ask some of these questions in a very roundabout way, like the question on citizenship, have you ever been arrested, right? That's a question. Have you ever been detained? But you have to ask someone, have you ever had a police officer stand close to you and put handcuffs on you? Were you ever fingerprinted? Have you ever seen sirens that were as close to you as I am to you? So you have to rephrase it. But at some point with an interpreter, you're asking the question, and it's on the client to answer honestly or not honestly. And then you get into culturally what is honest and what is dishonest, right? So there's a whole cultural component where perhaps in my culture or in the American culture, it's pretty black and white as to what is the truth. Whereas in some cultures, it's different, right? The truth can have many, many meanings. And sometimes you are not necessarily not telling the truth, but you're trying to protect something that I don't know you're trying to protect. Whether it be a child that's been adopted and you've passed that child off as your own, or, there's so many examples of people just protecting something, but I'm not aware of it. And so to me, it comes off as lying. To the government, it comes off as lying. But if we had told it in a different way, the damage would be less severe. Because right now, the damage is just, you're done.
All right. Awesome. So you start off the interview saying, get an attorney, basically, to bypass a lot of issues. So let's talk about your practices, like you being an attorney. Let's talk about why get an attorney?
Well, right now you get an attorney because an attorney can help you understand the process. An attorney can help you understand the pros and the cons. An attorney can give you options. An attorney can tell you in an honest way what should be said, what should not be said. A lot of times we as attorneys are able to ask, well, first of all, we ask all the questions, then we rephrase the questions, then we ask the question through an interpreter. Then we may bring you back and say, here, take this home and look at this, come back. So then you're thinking about maybe things that you've forgotten. So let's say I charge $300 for something. A notary or a tax preparer or some guy somewhere may charge $30 for something, right? So it's just a different standard. The standard is also, if I mess up, you can sue me. If the guy sitting in a basement somewhere messes up, you're not going to find him again. The Haitian community, I have never, ever seen in my 25 years of practice, so many Haitians going to a lawyer after all the mistakes have already been made and after the damage has been done. And it's to the point now where the notary or form preparer is gone. They might have been deported themselves, but they certainly can't be found. They don't have a copy of your file. What's in your file has nothing to do with you. It might just be a cut and paste or save as. And so now I'm in a position of having to redo everything, re-explain everything, file a complaint against the notary for doing something called the unauthorized practice of law. And a case that might have had some teeth in it, might have been a pretty decent case, you're now starting under, right? As opposed to just starting at an equal playing field, you're starting under. And so to get back to equal is just going to take so much work. and so much more effort. And it becomes more expensive. And I'm not quite sure, maybe you can help me understand why the Haitian community has decided that attorneys are not worth the investment, which tells me what they're saying is I as the client am not worth the investment. I don't think the education piece has gone out into the community to use professionals, whether it be a dentist are Haitians using professionals in other fields? Because it feels like they are, but when it comes to something as serious as saving their life and applying for asylum, they'll just trust some guy in some basement that they don't even know the person's name.
Yeah, that's something we could talk about, the culture. Because, for example, me, like, I had some family come in through the Biden. It's like, I just did, like, just be a sponsor for them. But I didn't go any further. Like, everything else, I refer them to a Haitian. So, again, it had to be
a Haitian attorney or just a Haitian?
A Haitian that says they do it.
Well,
why'd you do that?
So I need to educate you first.
Correct.
So here we go.
Yeah, right, we're ready.
Well, this is part of it. What you're saying is helping him to understand.
Because I'm the translator.
That guy in the basement, one, likelihood that the forms are done properly, not likely.
Did the Biden said they could come in through the...
Yeah, through the parole. You did the parole, which is fine, because that requires...
Yes.
That was fine. But now they're here.
That, somebody knows that doesn't, like, that's what they do. Just give it to them.
That's what they do. What does that mean? That's what they do. That's what they do because they're educated in that, or that's what they do because the language, right? So are you going to go to get your root canal or get a cavity filled or are you going to go to a dentist that has an education? So if they paralyze your mouth, you can actually sue them. And hopefully because they're educated in dentistry, they're not going to screw up your mouth. I mean, this is again, like when we go get an oil change, we go to an oil change guy. When we go to a dentist, we go to a dentist. Why is it the legal process is trusted to someone that just speaks the language?
That's the culture. But now that I know, it's like, I don't know. So what needs to be a term? I just know, like, it says for somebody, your sponsors to do it. So that's as far like I know I could do that.
But that was a very specific process, right? But now someone wants to... I'll give you an example of one of my favorite, not so favorite clients. I won his asylum case. He was a journalist. He had a very good asylum case, won his asylum case. His wife and daughter live in a different country. And I said, please come in because you have 2 years to do something called an I-730 application, which asylees can do for family, for spouses and children under 21 to bring them here as asylees. But you only have 2 years to do it. Called him. He went to a notary. The notary didn't know about this process because why should he? And he did a different process for them. And then that process died. So then he did something else for them, but he never came in within that 2 years for me to do this very specialized thing. 2 years went by and then he called me and he goes, this is taking a long time. This other thing he did. I said, yeah, it does. And I said, why didn't you come in for this thing? You never told me about that. And I have 8 phone calls that I have logged where I called him and texted him and emailed him. And then out of anger and frustration, he basically started to stalk me. He would text me. He would Facebook message me. Nasty, nasty stuff, threatening stuff that I'm going to bad places and he's going to put a curse on me and all sorts of stuff. And so I had to block him from everything. Versus me sending him these 8 messages saying, please come in so I can do this, right? So people, I think, I don't know whether he was trying to save some money. I don't know. But his wife and daughter are still not here, I don't think. And it's been several years. I understand his frustration. I'm not the problem.
Yeah, that's definitely one reason why I don't try to go in that field. Like, I stick in my own lane. So it's like, I'm just a PR. Like, I help what I can. So it's like, no, really nothing like that. I'm accounting. So it's like, I stick in that lane, nothing else. So what's the proper way? What would have been proper way for people for the Biden, like, that opportunity? What was the perfect way? Like, the sponsorship, like, then what was supposed to be the perfect step?
Well, under Biden, a lot of people came under parole, right? And parole meant that you have entered the country legally. And Biden created the parole program for Haitians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, and Cubans. He created the program because there were so many people coming through the border. The border was a little bit out of control. Crime was escalating at the border. Children were coming. There were a lot of rapes. There was a lot of violence. People were being kidnapped. So they created a process by which people could come legally. What I don't think was explained to people, or people don't want to understand the reality of coming to the U.S. under a parole program, which means it's not a permanent fix. You're allowed to come here for 2 years. And if Harris had been elected, she probably would have extended parole for another 2 years or another 2 years. And then when people enter under parole from countries that have war or conflict or natural disasters, a lot of times they're then eligible for something called temporary protected status, TPS. Again, a lot of Haitians came, they got TPS. Afghanis got TPS. Syrians got TPS. Somalis got TPS. Ethiopians got TPS. And then the Trump administration took away TPS from Haiti, Afghanistan, Ethiopia. Basically, most countries no longer, Venezuela, most countries don't have a TPS. And those countries are still dangerous countries. So now people are sort of in a political battle because they entered the country legally. The status that they might have had under TPS is going away. So now they have to apply for something else. And that something else can be if you entered under parole and you marry a citizen, or you have a child who's over 21 that's a citizen, they can apply for you legally because you have a legal entry. Some people don't have that. So then they have to have other options. And asylum is another option. But asylum is not just civil war or gang violence. Asylum means you have been persecuted based upon a very specific category. And a lot of the notaries and a lot of the work that I've seen from Haitian notaries and Somali notaries and Hispanic notaries, they might understand what asylum is, but they don't take the time to really dig into that person's personal and match their history with our definition of asylum. And a lot of that it's time. It's a lot of time. And then once you get a person's story, now you have to get evidence to corroborate that story, right? And so if you're getting $30 out of your basement, what's your incentive to do that? There's no incentive. And so I think all communities need to really think about, do I want to win? Do I want to have a chance at winning? Do I want to stay here? Because a lot of Haitians had a pretty decent life in Chile, in Brazil. And when someone said, well, come to America, sometimes people don't understand what they're coming to, why they're coming. Someone just says, come, and so they come. And so they gave up their house in Chile, and they might have had a decent living. And now they're in limbo land, right? And now they're being accused of eating their pets. And now they're being accused of God knows what else this government is accusing them of. So as opposed to, I just think that there needs to be a deeper dive by the community that's already here to guide people in the right direction. I'll give you another example that basically killed me. There was on the east side of Columbus, and there was a big apartment complex that was housing Haitians in the winter. Someone went to Florida, told Haitians, hey, come here, and we got a job for you, we got good housing for you, we got good schools for you. They picked them up, brought them to Columbus, Ohio, put them in apartments with no heat, no water. The apartments were condemned, right? Remember Colonial Village?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of those people were probably eligible for something called a U visa or a T visa. A T visa is a human trafficking visa, which usually includes labor trafficking. And I feel like there was labor trafficking that was happening because you had to pay back the person. You weren't allowed to leave the apartment sometimes. The conditions were horrific. And then a U visa is a victim of crime visa. So there has been a crime inflicted upon you. The crime is usually a violent crime like kidnapping or rape or domestic violence. So if you were brought from Florida, that was your choice, that might not be kidnapping. But if it was not your choice, it might be extortion or kidnapping. And so when all of that went down, a lot of agencies came together and gave people blankets, and gave people an interpreter, and gave people a hotel voucher. No one took on their immigration case.
So now I want to talk. So with that situation, how is it when entities take that case, such as Chris, like they took the immigration part?
No, they didn't.
Oh, okay. Okay, what happened? Sorry.
They didn't take the immigration part. They gave him some blankets and an interpreter.
So what I'm trying to say is how can first we need education. So we need a lawyer's Haitian representation, attorneys. I know Chicago has it, but not that I'm aware of this. But how do you create a good entity that could do that? For example, like you said, Chris only did the interpretation and blankets. Like, But there's HackerNet that has interpreters, notary, but like they don't have attorneys.
Chris has attorneys.
Okay.
But Chris doesn't have the capacity to do a lot of those cases, and there's no funding. So Chris has limited funding. It's a lot easier to do refugee green cards than to do deportation defense or T visas or U visas. I also think that the education piece is missing. So when people are in chaos and they're living in an apartment with no heat that's been condemned, with bed bugs, there's no food, you're cooking on a plate, you have no way of leaving, right? You have no transportation. The people that brought you there might be the people that are driving you to work. They might be keeping your wages. So I saw that, and I actually reached out to a Haitian organization, and they said, we're working with Chris. I've worked at Chris. I know Chris isn't doing their visa. So there's the gatekeepers need to open the gates.
That's the way you said. That's what got me.
Gatekeepers need to open the gates. There is no reason that an organization like Chris cannot hire private attorneys to help with that horrific scenario. But to do that, you have to think outside the box. You have to be open to other people coming in and helping. And organizations like Chris don't necessarily think outside the box.
So what about legal aid?
Legal aid, very good question. Very, very good question. I reached out to legal aid, and they are also very limited in what they can do. And they did none of those visas. They didn't think that there was a case there. I reached out to legal aid maybe 6 times to even get the name of the office that they're working with to investigate the T visa and the U visa. There's, again, the gatekeepers want to keep everything very tight. And at what expense? Who's suffering? The people are suffering. The people have no status, and they could have had status.
So basically, that's what that word term gatekeeper is like. I don't have as much knowledge as you. Like
Of course you do. You know gatekeepers.
Yeah, no, not really. But I believe entities are gatekeepers, but I don't know personally who they are. So it's like,
I think in Haitian communities, Somali communities, Hispanic, gatekeepers are people that have information that are not willing to share the information for a variety of reasons, right? So a lot of times they might not like the person. They might not know how to reach people that want to help. They might not understand how the options that exist. I have gone to battle with some of these nonprofits to get services for people. So I'm not necessarily liked. I don't necessarily care, because at the end of the day, more damage is done by gatekeeping than just flooding information out to the community, whether it be through the church or the food pantry or through friends or through you or through media or through, are we gatekeeping so we can get the funding? Are we gatekeeping so we keep the reputation? Are we gatekeeping because we want to be the most important person in the room? Why are we gatekeeping? What's the motivation to gatekeeping? And then let's fix that. You can share information. We're still going to fund you. Just because you share information doesn't mean we're going to cut your funding. It just means that more people will be helped. Now, you may not be able to count those numbers, right? Because those numbers, you're not the attorney on the case or the case manager or the interpreter or the whatever, right? That's okay, because you're actually helping someone. And that person might turn around and then become a cajillionaire and then fund your organization. I don't understand gatekeeping, and gatekeeping in Columbus is what is putting this immigrant community down. Open the gates.
Yep, that's the lane I'm trying to do. I'm working on doing media, because being in the little that I have been doing is why just like you said, I know that was a term gate, but you guys, why can't you just come in with what's the issues? I'm just stuck. That's why I'm in public places, I see everything is so I'm just let me just, so it's I don't know how to navigate. So it's I'm just.
Well, the social media is huge, but there's also, which I'm surprised you didn't mention, there's a lot of misinformation that continues to get repeated in the community. And it has a ripple effect on people ever seeking services that are safe or that can help them.
And especially now, right? Especially now where you don't want to, someone said, where was I today? Oh, I was at the Congolese church, and they were like, well, you used to post where you will be, because I provide a lot of free services. You used to post that. Why don't you post it anymore? Well, because I don't want ICE to go there, right?
No.
So if I post that I'm doing a big community event at the food pantry where I volunteer every month. I don't want anyone caught up in that, right? So now I have to be a little bit more cautious as to how I put things out there because the danger is a little bit real right now. I mean, I belong to a couple of Facebook pages where people are having hearings in their office, which is allowed. It's called a WebEx. And sometimes when you lose this particular attorney posted she lost the case, the client went outside and ICE was waiting outside. So do you know how much work it would take to figure out the date of the case, the time of the case, the time the case may end, where the attorney is? Like, for them to sit in the attorney's parking lot and wait for the client to leave, like what? And so now we go outside and before we let some clients out, we have to go and walk around and make sure there's, that it's safe for them to leave. But that's and then if there's someone there, then we have to figure out, okay, well, what are you going to do? And that's where your personal boundaries come in, right? Like, what are you willing to do? Because anyone that's shielding people now is getting prosecuted.
Yeah, I don't know what tickets stuff is. Like, I'm stuck at the gate for like how solutions, like, or can you get somebody who want to share it? Now, but it's like, that's what I'm trying to, that's the outcome I want to.
Solutions are, because don't forget, a lot of the gatekeepers make money off of this. And as soon as you're making money off of something, the gate's closed. So how do you convince people that opening the gate is good? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because a lot of the, in the Haitian community and some of these other immigrant communities, a lot of these leaders are the people in the basement charging $30 to do damage. But if $30 times 3,000, that's a lot of money. So this person is telling them not to do that. That's their livelihood. Yeah. So there has to be a better way, and there has to be a consequence, and there has to be like a moral compass to say, maybe I should go into a different line of work because might be hurting people. I've tried that. It doesn't work. I have tried that, and it just tends to make enemies, which at this point I'm okay with, but it's too big. The machine is too big.
Are curious as you said pastors earlier, and so thinking about faith, right? What if faith leaders were part of the discussion that says, listen, I, as your elder, as your faith leader, am telling you, don't go to a basement. Don't go to a form filler outer. You must go to an attorney because you're taking a risk.
The pastor is the form filler outer.
That's some shit. That's the moral compass thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss you.
No.
That's the moral compass issue.
Right.
And who are the elders, right? And who are those who can stand up and say, Pastor, you want to know, right? In the Black church and the Black community, we do that. You put it out there.
Yeah. So my question is, all right, what I want to say is, what have you done to make bad people like if I tell them like, all right, this is not right, but I don't know what's right. It's like, all I know is translate. That's the best I could translate. That's all I know is like, but like the process is like, I don't know. It's like, I don't go that lane. It's like.
Right. But you told your family that you brought here through the Biden Parole program to go to that guy that speaks Creole or French, or just go to that guy because he does that. Those are your words, right? And I'm telling you right now, that was probably a very bad decision. And you went to college, you are a reporter, you seem to know, you're in the know, right? And what I'm telling you right now is that might have not been a wise decision. And you're thinking, who the hell are you?
No, it's just not like, all right. So like, I'm not thinking that's not my answer.
I know, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah. But when I'm older than you, but when you're talking to perhaps someone older than you, or you're talking to perhaps someone, that's a pastor, or you're talking to someone that, they're Haitian, I'm not Haitian, I know more about the Haitian culture. Absolutely, you know more. But did you go to law school? Have you been doing this? Have you been in front of some of our judges? Have you been in front of some of our district councils? Have you spent 8 years in Chile? Like, why did you leave? Well, that's not relevant. They're here now. Yes, that's very relevant. So are we even going to do this case? Because you're probably going back to Chile. So I don't know I do my part, but there hasn't been a movement in these communities to really rally. And at the point where that movement starts, it's too late. Like, now is too late to have a movement, right? The movement should have started when all these people started coming in. And there should have been a cry from the community saying, please seek professional legal services. I went to a voodoo shop on Cleveland Avenue and some guy in the back is doing immigration. And I'm like, how does a voodoo shop and immigration go together? But I'm curious, right? I go to these places because I'm super curious, but
You went in there?
you haven't been in there?
No.
It's kind of cool. I don't think I knew where I was going. I think I was like, oh, these are nice candles.
So-
there's the circus. There it goes. Can't
So
do it.
I'm definitely going to do part 2 because to reflect. So like what movement should happen?
The education movement.
Okay.
Just educate people. And understand that you're going to make enemies and understand that you're cutting people's livelihoods, right? So, and be okay with that.
That's the other question. So it's like if the program is for 2 years, it just depends on who's in office. Like,
These people are political pawns in a process that they didn't even know that they were political pawns. Yes. If Harris had been elected, parole would have been extended, TPS would have been extended, and perhaps something new would have come out of it, right? That's not what happened. And now it's very interesting because now a lot of the people that voted for him did not anticipate that their community would be affected. I mean, I've have several Venezuelan and Cuban friends that would say, well, I voted for Trump because he promised not to touch my community. Well, why is your community special? Why are you special? Why are you any more special than the Ukrainians or the Haitians or the Nicaraguans or the Cubans? Like, because you're whiter? Like, why are you special? And when people say, I didn't expect this, then I'm like, you're living on Mars. Like, how did you not expect this? We all expected this. They learned the first time around and they got better, right? That's what AI is. It just keeps getting better. That's what Stephen Miller is. He's just like AI. Just keeps getting better and his hatred just keeps going. Like, how much more can I hate? How much more can I make people suffer? And he just keeps getting better like a machine. So we did expect it. And we should expect it to get much worse because as soon as they stop what they're doing now, it's gonna affect other communities that did not see it come. The Bhutanese community did not see it coming.
So to close this out,
I'm just getting started.
Okay, we can get.
I'm just kidding.
I don't get her a chance.
Oh, yeah.
I was also going to say, though, because you asked a question, and then when you were talking, I was like, well, that is the connection. One is you sitting in front of that camera and you saying, I messed up.
That would never happen. That will never happen.
Well, let me finish my...
Go.
I messed up. And here's what I learned is sitting down with an immigration attorney, I may have done so much more harm than good in an effort to help a friend or a family member, so you keep it vague. A friend or a family member out, what I may have actually have done is thrown my direct family into harm's way with deportation because I didn't know better. But remember the saying is, once you know better, you're supposed to do better.
Right.
And so your confession of sin almost. But then also, I do think there's a generational difference. Like,
I was just going to say that, like, what would you say to the dual, like first American, like generation, like how would you, also the question, like for first generation, like Haitian, like, or just immigrants period, because we had different communities here, like what would you say to them? Like they're born in the United States, like how would they, some that speaks the language of their parents, like what advice would you give to them?
In terms of helping newcomers?
Yeah, or being advocates, for example, we said don't pursue law right now for that, but like what can we do?
Well, I mean, there's a lot that people can do to help their own people, especially now, right? Like, there's basic necessities. So I remember when the more Senegalese and Guineans were coming, there was a big meeting to basically say, us U.S. citizens are about to get evicted because we are in a 2-bedroom apartment housing 10 people. And there was a big conversation around housing, not necessarily for the people coming that are living with relatives, but the people sponsoring and hosting being evicted because they're sponsoring too many people because there's nowhere else to put people, right? So I think these conversations are important, but there's no solutions. So I attended some of those meetings, and the solution was basically go into your community and see who else can host. I remember going into the mosque on Livingston and kind of educating. There was about 200 people there. It was Christmas Day, and I wanted to bring food. So I reached out to a couple of friends that ran food pantries or were connected to food pantries, and what I was told was you have to bring them to the food pantry. And I'm like, it's Christmas. It's cold. I'm going into the mosque. Can anyone just give me a pile of something to bring to, like, there's 200 people that are, they're living with other people in their good graces that, this isn't sustainable. And there was one Ghanaian pastor on the east side that met me at Aldi with a truck full of food. And then I bought my own food for people and just delivered food and then gave my presentation. But it's not an individualized effort. It's really a community effort, and the community needs to understand all aspects, right? So there's housing, there's medicine, there's childcare, there's school, there's sleep, where are people sleeping? There's so many aspects to this, right? So before you kind of go into like your immigration status, you have to go into the other stuff first. And by the time that you kind of resolve the other stuff, the immigration stuff needs to be filed, and it needs to be filed cheaply. So you're just going to send people to whoever to do it in the least expensive way, which is usually the guy in the basement. Or Columbus has found some creative solutions where they have these legal clinics sponsored by Legal Aid or other organizations where they have volunteer attorneys that don't necessarily do immigration, and they have the client sign something that basically says, we're helping you, but we're not representing you. Do you think anyone understands what they're signing? Okay, you said it, right? No one understands what they're signing. I'm meeting with a lawyer. They seem to know they seem to kind of get it. And so therefore, that's my lawyer. So why are you not in court with me? And so now we're getting the influx of all the people that have been deported because they thought they were going to have a lawyer and they didn't go to court because they're scared and they thought their lawyer was going to. So now we have lots of problems. So my advice would be at this point, we're in survival mode, right? It's very hard to physically, mentally, emotionally, financially organize because I don't want to say it's too late, but we're like in it. Like people are getting snatched from the streets and getting deported. But I think that there's a lesson to be learned from this, and that when you have such an influx of people, you have to have better systems set up to educate and to not send them, to some guy, and to really figure out how the gatekeepers can come together for the better good, for the greater good, because I don't think people have bad intentions 90% of the time, but not understanding leads to bad results.
So I don't know how long you want to go with food, but thing is the infrastructure, like how the education, all that, is there any system that's already built anywhere in the United States that has a good system?
I mean, when I was practicing in Spokane, Washington, and in San Francisco, it seemed like organizations got along. Like there was a little bit of a better, people were willing to share a little bit more and willing to, it doesn't seem like Columbus has a lot of collaboration between agencies because they're always competing for the same funding, right? So Chris, Us Together, ETSS. During the first Trump administration, they lost a lot of funding and they had to think how to work smarter and better and more efficiently, right? And I think when Biden came in, they forgot that lesson and they went right back to, we need a bus to drive people, we need a bus to drive people, we need a bus to drive people. So we need 3 bus drivers, we need to pay someone 3 times and benefits. Why don't you just share the same bus driver and figure out, you do ESL, we'll do resume building, you do immigration. How can we take these agencies that are competing for the same funds with these, my father always said, what's the saying? Something with the fish stinks from the head up. There's a fish and there's smelling and there's something with fish. Basically, the organization will be what the leader is. The leader will lead the organization. Yeah. And so some of these leaders have been in power for, a long time. Like Nancy Pelosi, let's say, is stepping down. She's 85 years old. Maybe it's time. Justice Ginsburg, may she rest in peace. We as women loved her. She made a very big mistake. By dying in office, she gave Trump here you go, elect, appoint whoever you want. It would have been amazing if she would have resigned and we would have gotten someone like her, right? It's very hard to say that because she was so phenomenal. But that at the end, I don't know whether it was ego or dementia or something, but she should have stepped down and not died in office. And I feel like it's time for some fresh leadership. It's time for some fresh ideas. It's time to share resources because at this point, all funding for all these nonprofits is going to end. And so how do you recreate in a way, how does the phoenix rise from the ashes, basically? Like, you have to recreate differently. You can't just do the same stuff over and over again. It fails. Well, that's a positive.
I mean, I think you should end on something a little.
No, that's good. Just how do people reach that? It's part two. That's always part two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. How do people find you? Like, give us a closing quote.
That's of hope.
And how do people find you?
Sure. So we have an amazing immigration practice, an amazing group of people. There are 4 attorneys in our practice that really care. Like, I will definitely say that even during very difficult times, our attorneys give 100%. Our support staff gives 100%. We're at 1450 East Main Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43205. We are on the corner of Miller and Kelton. Miller and Kelton go one way, so please make sure to go the right way because we've caused almost many accidents in the area. We are on the bus line. There's a bus that stops right in front of our building. We are open usually from 9 to 5. We do phone appointments. We do in-person appointments. We see clients all over the U.S., so it's not just limited to Columbus. So an immigration practitioner's law license is good in all 50 states. So we travel wherever our clients need us. I would also say now is probably a good time to have a copy of your case. Now is a good time, if you don't have a copy of your case, to order a copy of your case, which can be done. Now is also probably a good time to seek immigration help. Even if you don't have an immigration attorney, the clients that I care about, they all have my cell phone at this point, just in case. That is rare, but I feel like that is my responsibility for people that I've worked with for many years. A lot of the people that I serve, I have a letter that I write to them that has my information on it, that has their case type on it. So if perhaps ICE doesn't know who they are, what they are, they can at least give them something that maybe a good person will then let them go if they know that they have a case pending. That's not always the case right now. But I would just say that for people that don't have an attorney right now might be a good time to consult with an attorney. We have some very good immigration attorneys in Columbus. We are not the only office. There are others. And I think now's the time for community to come together, whether it be through the church or the food pantry or through the different religious organizations, the different nonprofits. It's a time to sort of ask for help in areas you may need help. And hopefully the community can sort of come together that works for individuals, right? Bishop Griffin is on Livingston Avenue, and they have a food pantry. They have a clothing pantry. I'm there, and Mount Carmel Street Medicine is there. So resources are available to people that need them. And I think we as a community owe it to the immigrants that have come into our city, into our state, and into our country to kind of protect them at this point, because we're a little bit in protection mode. So reach out to those that you trust and that want to help you in all areas of your life, whether it be teachers or educators or the faith community, but also in terms of what I do and what I feel very passionate about. Get an immigration attorney. Get an immigration attorney to at least guide you with what's possible and what may not be possible.
Awesome. Thank you very much. How do I get in contact with you? Like Google you?
My phone number, the office number is 614-695-4605. I say to all of my clients, please leave a message. If you don't leave a message, we cannot know that you called. Leave a message. We call back within 2 business days.
Awesome. Thank you. Any final words?
We are here for the community, and the community needs all of us to come together right now.
All right. Thank you very much. You informed me a lot. I hope to see you in the next podcast. We're going to, debrief. The case is not closed. We're going to come back and get some solutions and some practical steps of next time. All right. Thank you very much.